Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Manila House, I'm Bambina Olivares, the Director of Programming, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on a very topical subject, cutting off the oxygen. Can we live without social media? I'm pleased to moderate today's webinar with our panel of speakers and reactors. So, love it or loathe it, social media is part of our lives. And how many of us check our phones first thing in the morning when we wake up? And some of us even do it incessantly throughout the day. But I think very few of us actually try to use social media to incite a revolution like a former president recently did. So, where do we draw the line between social media use and abuse? So, joining us today is a very interesting panel made up of social media sensation Mark Abrilia, also known as McCoy Dubs, and his other persona is Aunt Julie, and I'm sure you've seen him on social media, on TikTok and Instagram. We have Alex De Leon, formerly with Facebook, and now product marketing lead for Instagram, based in Singapore. We have social media analysts from Eon Philippines, Teddy Mapa and Andrea Dulgalao. And rounding off the discussion, we have two clinical psychologists from In Touch Counseling Services, Ian Agustin and Mara Yusinko. So we'll start with an overview of social media usage from Teddy and Andrea from Eon.
So, good evening, everyone. Just to introduce myself again, my name is Teddy Mapa. I'm the strategic planning lead of the Eon Group, and I am joined today by my colleague and my teammate, Andrea Doldulao. She's our social listening analyst. We are from the Eon Group's research and analytics team. For those of you that aren't yet familiar with the Eon Group, we are an integrated communications company. So what we do is we run different campaigns and we tell creative stories through different platforms, including social media, PR, events, activations, and the list goes on. We also regularly release thought leadership pieces, some of which we've actually been lucky to share with the Manila House audience in the past. And our most recent one, which just came out very recently, just last month, is a study actually on how influencers have changed across the recent times. So this is entitled Influencers, Eye Candy or Eye Openers. And if any of you would like a copy of that, you can just shoot us an email at the email address that's up on the screen. So, okay, that's it for my, my shameless plug. Before I start, I just like to thank Manila House and to thank Bambina for inviting us again today. It's always a delight to be around the Manila House audience, whether it's in person or virtually like today. So what we did is for this evening, we've prepared just a few slides to lay the groundwork and to sort of set the tone a little bit. So hopefully this will help us, help guide us toward finding an answer to the question posed to all of us today, which is, can we live without social media? How essential is it? It's tricky, especially in the pandemic. But perhaps some of these truths about social media and its evolution give us a little more clarity in answering that question. So before anything, next slide, please. Let's begin with its definition. What exactly is social media? Multiple sources online define it as the collective of online communication channels dedicated to community-based input, interaction, content sharing, and collaboration. And here in the Philippines, it's absolutely no secret that social media is huge and has and continues to become more and more huge. Okay, next slide, please. And according to We Are Social's Global Digital Report, which was released just last January 2020, there are actually 73 million active Filipino social media users. So this represents around 67% of the entire population. And this percentage spends an average of around 4 hours a day on different social media platforms. So as you can see, these data points show just how tied into so many people's lives social media has become. It's become very integral in a big chunk of the population's day to day. Okay, next slide, please. And these 73 million users have experienced the multitudes of what social media can do for them. Because after all, social media can become a doorway towards multiple avenues of connection. And through it, you can actually reach out to different kinds of people. And you can also reach out to people who are somewhat the same as you. So social media has gained the knack for guiding people towards other people that have similar interests, similar passions, similar viewpoints, especially in the Philippines, where people have grown hyper attached to their devices, especially given the pandemic situation. So this presents a lot more opportunities, not just to connect through social media, but to actually build and grow communities online, not just for the sake of connection, but actually possibly influencing people positively through these communities. Now, how has this dynamic come to be what it is today? Next slide, please. Okay, so we actually see social media as a middleman that has changed and evolved faster than anyone could have anticipated. So what began as a desktop or a laptop experience via a dial-up connection has quickly shifted and evolved towards an experience that you have now through high-speed internet or high-speed wireless internet rather, in homes, in establishments, in office spaces. And then on top of that, you have the arrival of cellular service capabilities and the integration of devices like tablets and smartphones that we bring everywhere with us. So that completely pushed the dynamic of how people stay connected, whether it's online or offline. And from something that was, location specific, with you needing to connect while you're at home or in a particular place, the opportunity of mobile social media turned it into something that goes where we go. So users nowadays bring their accounts and their online personas with them, anywhere and everywhere. And this shift, of course, opened up so many new possibilities for businesses and advertisers alike to take advantage of this customer mobility. So while people were on the go, brands and advertisers suddenly realized that they could reach them almost anywhere. And this grew social media's role as a middleman, making it bigger and bigger, and making there more opportunities for people to approach these users more frequently as well. So Facebook, for example, began placing ads on its platform as early as 2006. And then Twitter began in 2010. And then LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok have all attempted also to bring forth their services to brands and to advertisers. And the way that those services play out also evolve across the year. So you could see that there's actually this sort of multi-channel evolution that's been going on ever since social media was introduced to us. And then aside from placing ads, which requires, shelling out money, buying into opportunities, companies, institutions, and even personalities also had the opportunity to grow audience bases organically by actively engaging with people online. So at present, social media has been a huge tool where companies, businesses, and individuals or influencers can increase their awareness, can generate leads, can develop and nurture relationships, and the a whole bunch of other things. And of course, they could also learn from the other people that are on that space. So apart, of course, from being an avenue for businesses and for brands, social media has also become an avenue for diverse ways of personal expression. And the modes that you can go about personal expression vary from platform to platform. That also varies in the way that businesses approach different users. So it's a very different game on Facebook versus Twitter versus Instagram, etc. So just to give everyone an overview of the different platforms and how different they are from each other, I'll turn you over to Andrea.
Hello. Next slide, please. I'm here to discuss the top platforms here in the PH and their different uses. So for Facebook, no surprise, it still remains as the most used platform here in the Philippines with over 84 million users locally. Its users consists of diverse audience and age groups, each with their own different attitudes and behaviors towards the platform, which is why for brands, there is more of a need to rise above all the noise and the clutter because everyone is just on the platform. And then for Twitter, there are 28 million Filipinos using the platform, and it's more for real-time content and news as compared to Facebook, where you use it mostly to connect with your friends and family. Twitter also comes in handy with social listening if you sort of want real-time conversations or quick polls on consumer sentiment when it comes to certain issues and topics. Instagram is where people go to consume aesthetically pleasing or inspirational or aspirational content. It's also interesting to note that the e-commerce side of IG is thriving, especially with a lot of small and medium scale enterprises going to the platform to sell their products during the lockdown. And then for YouTube, about 85% of Filipinos use the platform, and it cuts across all age groups. The consumption varies from watching ASMR videos to learning a new language or informative videos on how to properly raise your own plants. I mean, if you don't know how to do it, there's most likely a YouTube tutorial for it. And then next, for LinkedIn, personally, I think this is one of the most tamed or the most tamed social media platform out of all the platforms. Mostly because it's mainly used to connect with professional networks, and it's really there for you to learn more about your chosen industry. And then for TikTok, it's a bit of the rising star amongst the platforms with about 3.6 million users and growing. Anyone can be a content creator with the right kind of content. And I think in terms of virality, the funny kind of content on TikTok. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that we've discussed the pervasiveness of social media and its use, I think it's also good to tackle and to sort of remember that, like with any innovation or technology, social media has its positive uses, but also its dangers that can impact the lives of its users. Next slide. One of the most pressing issues on social media today is the proliferation of fake news. The freedom provided online also has its pitfalls. I mean, anyone can publish anything, and it's become really increasingly difficult to distinguish what's factual and what isn't. If you could press the slide. I mean, sorry, first bullet point. Thanks. So there was a report from Inquirer which states that about last year, the PNP arrested over 47 people around April for allegedly spreading fake news about COVID-19 on social media. And then in August of last year as well, several people shared false information claiming that about 5 people in Tarlac died after getting vaccinated. So really these kinds of fraudulent and dangerous posts can not only severely undermine the health sector's response to the pandemic, but it also breeds really negative sentiments of distrust among users and for some people also among more credible online information sources. Social Sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? Thanks. Okay, that's good. Social media has also long been under the microscope for its effects on users' well-being when used excessively, with many people really feeling the burden of anxiety and stress and even informational overload when they're going online. People fighting on Facebook or Twitter or leaving hurtful comments are just some of the things which can induce negative feelings when you scroll through social media. There is this thing, I think the term was coined around 2018, but it's become more popular nowadays. It's called doom scrolling. So it's when someone consumes large amounts of negative news and negative posts all at once. And really, it can become detrimental to anyone's mental health. There is also the case of being constantly bombarded with more information than we know what to do with, which leaves some people feeling either empty or more overwhelmed when they go online. I mean, beyond the loss of productivity, being overexposed digitally can really take a toll on one's overall well being. Next slide, please. But of course, we also shouldn't deny the good things that come with social media. For the first point, the online space has become a source of solace and comfort for many, especially during this pandemic, with most in isolation or in indoors. A report from the Global Web Index last August 2020 found that about 57% of US and UK consumers say that social media has helped them feel less lonely during the pandemic. The power and I think the necessity of social media has become more apparent, or it's seen more through the way we interact with emotional posts, or the way we react to life updates from friends, or even watching entertaining videos from influencers. It's all just been amplified at this current period where we've been so deprived of physical interaction. And then another good point of using social media is that many have become more socially aware of different situations and have become more discerning about their environment. It has become a space where more people can be included in the shaping and reshaping of knowledge. We never would have learned more about the world and its nuances if not for the speed with which information quickly travels and gets disseminated online. Social media has really become this prevalent tool for engagement, for facilitating communication between people and communities. I mean, overall, the use of social media can be intense. There are people turning against each other online, and sometimes it feels like this kind of void where you tend to get lost in when you stare like really long enough. But of course, there are great things about it too. There are great things to be achieved with these platforms, and it can become a force for social good, force for change and action when used like with anything in moderation and responsibly.
Okay, so this now brings us back to the question that started the webinar in the first place, that opened the webinar. Can we really live without social media, or can we even actually imagine a life without it now? Now that it's become so integrated into our lives, and into the lives of millions of Filipinos, and most especially in the midst of a pandemic where we need to continuously find ways to cope with things like isolation and loneliness. Um, there are dangers and pitfalls to social media, as Andrea pointed out, but there are also clear advantages to it. But either way, how pressing and how large it has become, and how extreme its existence now is, surely begs a lot of attention. It can't anymore be ignored, especially since this continuous evolution of social media is still creating major shifts in how we are, and maybe even in who we are, to both ourselves and to each other. So there, that actually concludes our presentation. So thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Teddy, and thanks, Andrea. We're gonna go now to Alex. He's gonna talk about social media from the point of view of the platform creator. And I mean, no social media is called, especially Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and Parler, which I hope no one's on Parler from here, but it's come into a lot of focus recently because of the U.S. elections and the recent events in Washington D.C. And so I'm sure, Alex, you have a lot to say about that. I don't think these social media platforms were created with those things in mind. So if you'd like to elaborate.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for having me, and thanks a lot for inviting me to come speak with you all today. So I didn't have a presentation, but I think what I wanted to do was, based on the topic of discussion, share a couple of thoughts that are top of mind. And then I also want to make sure that I'm giving a lot of time for the other speakers who are a lot more qualified than I am, and also to answer any questions as well. So let me start off with a little bit of my personal background. So I've had the privilege of spending my entire career in technology. And you could make the case that I've been working in social media to some extent for my entire career. I started off at Google, and then I spent quite a bit of time at YouTube, and then Facebook, and now Instagram. So in my current role, what I'm doing is I lead our product marketing team across Instagram Asia Pacific. And that role essentially has two different responsibilities. The first one is that I work very closely with our product teams, all of our engineers and our designers who are based in the US, to think about what's unique and happening in Asia that they don't know about that we have to take into account to make sure that we're building a platform that appeals to everyone, not just people in the US. And so when we look at a platform like Instagram or Facebook, more than 90% of our users are actually located outside of the US. And then the other part of my job is thinking about how we want to drive growth and adoption of both our consumer products as well as our advertising products. So if anyone here is an Instagram user, if you've done anything around Instagram shopping or stories or stickers or filters, all of that will be going through me. So if you have any great product ideas, please feel free to send them my way, and I can take full credit for any of those ideas. But what I wanted to talk about today was not necessarily coming from an Instagram or a Facebook perspective. What I actually wanted to start off with was just more on the personal side. So I first joined Facebook in 2005. And for anyone who was using Facebook around that time will remember is that the Facebook then was an incredibly different experience. And it was also a very, very different world as well. So in 2005, Facebook was closed just to college students. And it was kind of a closed community where you could upload pictures of your friends. You could write on each other's walls. There was no messaging function at the time. And in 2005, it was an incredibly different world. Just think back, there was no iPhone, there was no mobile internet, there was no Spotify, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Viber, Telegram, all these things that have now sort of become a daily part of our life. And so when you think about that last 15 years, this is, I think, where it's really important for us to put some of these broader questions into perspective. Things like, is social media good or bad? What is the story of social media? And I think that the short answer of this is the story of social media is largely unwritten. And the effects and the good and the bad and the ugly, all of that, I think, remains to be seen, given how young social media is and how much of a small part it is of the overall human history. And when I put this in a little bit of perspective, so I know I look a little bit young, but when I was growing up in the 80s, for example, this was generally called the cable TV and the rap generation. And I remember very distinctly at the time when I was growing up that everyone was saying that, if you're spending time watching cable television, you're not outdoors playing with your friends, and that's going to destroy the youth. Or if you listen to rap music and there's profanity in rap music, that also will destroy the youth. And so obviously those things seem kind of silly when we look back 20, 30 years later. But I think that this is something that happens a lot in human history. There's new generations that come into play. There's new technologies that emerge as well. And understanding how that technology will impact not just that generation, but also society at large remains to be unseen. So if I take it back a little bit to the Facebook and Instagram perspective, the way that I see it is that there are more than 3 billion people that are using one of the Facebook products. And so that includes Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and then WhatsApp. And if we think about that just in the scale and in grand scheme of things, I mean, that's essentially half the earth that is now connected for the very first time. And sort of what I was mentioning earlier is that when you connect people together into really large communities, that brings a lot of amazing things. It also brings a lot of bad things and a lot of ugly things together. So for every single family that is physically apart during COVID that's able to use Facebook or Messenger or WhatsApp to stay connected in ways that they wouldn't have been able to 15 or 20 years ago, you also have every example around things like bullying and fake news and harassment and whatever it is that you see on social media. And so in a lot of ways, I think that social media is really a reflection of who we are. So when we connect everyone together, there's a lot of great things, but then there's also a lot of really ugly things about people and society at large. So I think with that, what I can also add in is maybe a couple of specific things that are top of mind for me, just individual products or projects that I'm working on that I think are a little bit related to some of the points that we brought up earlier about what's challenging, what's wrong about social media. The first one is fake news. Now, fake news is a massive problem. It's a problem not just on the traditional social media networks that you and I might think of as, let's say, like a Facebook or a Twitter or an Instagram, but it's also a problem with any platform that people use to connect with each other. So if you ever go to a Viber community, I've got a whole bunch of these family chat groups with my, my titas and a lot of, how do I say, more mature folks that are constantly, sending me fake news about, some miracle cure for COVID, or if you swish coconut oil in your mouth and it cures diabetes or Alzheimer's. And I wouldn't necessarily think of Viber or Telegram as a social media network. But essentially what happens is that we connect people and we give them the tools to connect and communicate with each other. And then that reflects who we are as a human society. So fake news is something that we're battling very aggressively. I think if I'm just being really blunt with this particular audience, is in a lot of ways, fake news is a very difficult uphill climb. And the reason I say that is for the speed at which I, as just a regular user, could post something that is fake news. Let's say, for example, there is a rat problem in Manila House. I'm just totally making stuff. Manila House is lovely. I love it there. The food is amazing. But for me to say that one time on social media, to clear that up, to fact check it, and then to disprove it, takes about 15 times the amount of work and time that it would take for me to just post that one random opinion that we have. And so think about something as small scale as that. That's kind of like a joke example, but obviously that has real world impact as well when we look at the political situation, and not just in the Philippines, but I think in many countries around the world. I think Trump himself tested the limits of how we as a platform would like to balance between giving the president of the most powerful country in the world the platform to speak to constituents, but at the same time also understanding that there could be real world danger that emerges from that speech. So fake news is a massive problem that we're trying to address pretty aggressively. On our side, we spend now more money than we made before we went public as a company on battling fake news. And so that's really going to be a combination of two different things. On one side, we're investing heavily on artificial intelligence that is able to proactively identify this content. So even before it's able to be posted and shared and going viral, we're able to proactively identify it and then take it down. So especially for things like child pornography or terrorism, we're able to take down more than 90% of that content before it actually even goes up. And that's all due to the automated systems. Now, of course, because there's so much nuance when it comes to fake news, that we have a massive content moderation team as well. So we've got more than 30,000 people all around the world whose full-time job it is to look at all of these reports that are coming in that our system was not able to proactively identify, and then make a judgment call in only a way that a human person can. So if I'm posting my personal opinion about Manila House, is that fake news or is that real news, or is that fake news entirely? So there's a lot of nuance that comes when on the subject of battling fake news. The other thing that I'll end with here is that on the Instagram side, one of the things that we've publicly stated is we want to put a stake in the ground and be the best place for online well-being. So a lot of the challenges that we're going to talk about, not just with this audience, but I think you might be having them within your own social circles as well, is when you have questions of social comparison or FOMO, or you see all of your friends on really nice vacations and you feel like you're not having as great of a life as you could, or people are only showing the highlights of their life, or people are leaving negative comments. All of these are problems that we didn't have to deal with 15 years ago. So when I was growing up, I grew up essentially in a pre-social media world. And so I didn't have that constant feedback loop that was happening. So at least on the Instagram side, we've identified that this is a massive area of opportunity and focus for us. It's a bar that we want to be the highest standard of online well-being when it comes to any platform in the world, not just in the Philippines, but in the world as well. So I think with that, I'll kind of take a pause. I've taken up, I think, more than my fair share of the time, but definitely would love to have any questions as well later on.
Thanks so much, Alex. We will have time for your questions later on. Now I'm gonna, well, just for the record, there are no rats in Manila House, okay? Just to be
Right,
clear.
that's fake
Um,
news. Sorry. That's a bad
Wait,
example.
that's totally fake news. Okay, we're gonna go now to McCoy Dubs or McCoy Avrilia, who'll talk to us about his. I don't know if a lot of you have kind of seen him, watched him on TikTok and Instagram. I think he makes us all laugh, and he's become a real social media sensation. And he, with his different personas as well. I think there are many of us titas who've been personally who've kind of felt the being referred to in one way or another Aunt Julie persona. But at the same time, I have to say that is very progressive. The topics also, you do it with in short, you know short reels of humor, but you have a way of tackling very progressive subjects and controversial subjects. So I'm not going to take up more of your time. McCoy, please. Welcome.
Hello, thank you everyone, and hello to all the esteemed guests and fellow panelists. I'm McCoy, and thank you everyone for inviting me. Well, grabe naman sa social media sensation, hindi naman. I'm just low-key, but everything started in 2017, right after I worked in Qatar as content producer for an advertising agency. So I'm a frustrated copywriter, so basically a frustrated creative. And ever since I like to be a TV reporter. That's why I took communication arts in college. After that, hindi ako pinalad mag-work sa isang TV network. So I ventured myself in the ad industry and worked there for almost 8 years. Working in Qatar, there are a lot of realizations, a lot of failures as well. And I decided to go back here in 2017 March. And since I'm a frustrated copywriter, I reapplied in an advertising agency, but I ended up being a senior account manager. So I'm handling multinational brands, local brands, social media accounts as well. So my role in the ad industry has been hybrid. So it's a bit accounts, creative, and then social media as well. So I decided way back October 2018 to took screenshots of The Devil Wears Prada and Mean Girls, and then I put Tagalog subtitles as if dito sinut ang Devil Wears Prada and Mean Girls. So it's really more of, making Filipino pop culture uh, parang highlight, giving back to Pinoy pop culture. Parang kasi 'di ba ang funny kapag ka yung mga international movies, we are making it Tagalog, or like for example, Tagalog dub movies being played at Channel 5 or sometimes in GMA 7. So somehow as Filipinos, our reaction to it, it's kind of funny, 'di ba? It's kind of odd sometimes. So yon, after that, after creating the memes, I decided to dub the videos. So what I did was I have a laptop, and then I have an editor, Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere, and then I record my voice, and then I salpak, no, I edit the video sa software, and then I upload it on my personal account. So before, there's no Makoy Dubs Facebook page. And then after 2 days, I was wondering kasi ang daming notifications. Parang what's happening? Parang ang daming tumutunog sa phone. And then there are a lot of comments and shares and likes, no? And then they were telling me, okay, do more, ganyan, nakakatawa siya. And then 2017 December, I decided to create my own page, no? Where I house all my dub videos and some other memes. But then, I've decided as well na hindi lang siya all about funny stuff, not all about humor, but also I'd like to touch on the reality of life. Parang, I can be political as well. I can put, some other parinigs of other public figure, so making it satire, no? So because when I was a kid, my mom would always tell me na she likes the abangan ng susunod na kabanata na TV show. And that's my inspiration of creating satirical content. But sometimes funny naman. Yun, and then 2018, there's a slight decline of content creation because when I started posting, medyo sensitive topics or, controversial topics, people would often bash you, 'di ba? Because parang ayaw nila ng political, gusto lang nila funny. But then, I've decided kasi sa content creation, I like it na yung mga followers din, na-activate yung critical thinking nila. It's not all about, making you laugh, but also making you think na, shucks, oo nga, no, it's happening. Or, shucks, oo nga, no, totoo yung ganyan. So, merong touch of reality. Not all about, parang patatawanin ka lang for 1 minute and then so on and so forth. Parang wala na nangyari. 'Di ba? Ayoko ng ganong impact nung mga panahon na yon. And then 2019, I decided to show my face. So I'm doing vlogs, no? I'm doing gay language together with my former office mate. So we'll go to the mall and then we'll eat and then we speak Becky language. So parang nagkaroon lang ng evolvement from dubbing, from memes to short vlogging. So yung mga 2 minute, 3 minute vlogging, parang what's happening in my life per day, something like that. And then come 2020, hindi natin in-expect na dadating ang pandemic. Honestly, I was on the verge of, deleting my page because I'm having this kind of mental block or parang writer's block. Parang I don't know what to do anymore. Because people, they are not fond of my dubs. Parang sometimes nakokornihan na sila. And with the vlogs, parang sabi ko, there are a lot of vloggers already. But hindi pa ako nag-YouTube. But because I just wanna latch on Facebook because mas malaki ang market ng Facebook eh. Mas maraming users, no? But if you like long form content, of course you go to YouTube. But me, I want short form. I want instant. I want 1 minute, 2 minute, and then I'll make you laugh something, or I'll make you entertain the best way I can. And the pandemic started and nangyari ang lockdown. So I started creating skits on TikTok. I started creating skits on TikTok wherein I'm mimicking or parang I'm ginagaya ko yung mga personalities, no, yung mga empleyado ng government, like for example, SSS employees, BIR or Bureau of Internal Revenue employees or photocopiers sa mga universities. And then as if I'm doing the job, no, na parang ako yung nagtatatak ng passport, I'm like an immigration officer. And I created that kind of content because yun yung mga nami-miss ng tao eh. Those are the people we are not meeting on a daily basis because nga we are on a lockdown, because we are locked up inside our homes, no? So parang sabi ko at the thought the back of my mind, eto yung mga hindi na natin nami-meet in person. These are the people na nami-miss natin. And how about I create skits na would make them feel na, oh shucks, oo nga no, ganyan nga yung mga taga BIR. Oh my God, ganyan nga yung mga taga Jollibee. Ganito yung mga nagtatrabaho sa BPO, something like that. And then come by August, so the videos, no, the skits, immigration officer skits, something like that, it gained positive feedback. So funny daw, natatawa naman sila. Some they don't find it funny at all. So that's fine with me. Because in content creation, what I've realized, no matter what you do, whether funny or not, people will always have, feedback, 'di ba? Whether natawa or hindi. That's part of the social media cycle eh. That's part of the ecosystem of social media. And trolls are there, of course, most especially if you post controversial topics. And then come by August, I created the Auntie Julie persona because I was inspired by my mom again because kapag ka nami-meet niya nga yung mga ano niya, yung mga high school friends, ganun sila magsalita. So again, creating another persona, or parang yung nga, yung hindi kasi tayo daily basis nakakalabas. So I'm creating these skits to make people happy online. And then yeah, it gained popularity, and I had a chance to, uh, I had the chance to be in the mainstream as well. So I'm really thankful for that. But sa 4 na taon, or 3 to 4 years of content creation, I must say that as a content creator, sometimes I cannot live without social media, no? Because as a content creator, I also have this kind of stamina, or parang hormone, wherein, shocks, hindi pa ako nagpo-post this week. What should I post? Or if I didn't post for this week, I might lose followers. May ganun kang thinking eh. Di ba? May ganun kang thinking. But then I realized it's good to take breaks. No, it's good to take breaks, and just also to give the spotlight, or just to give just to give chance to other content creators as well. So, but also I've realized that in content creation here in the Philippines, no, if you post funny content, 100% funny, you have more followers, likers, more shares. Because in reality, Filipinos are emotional. We want to be always happy. We want to laugh. We want to be funny. We want fun. But if you post something political, controversial, or an advocacy, medyo swindling, right? Medyo konti or slow ang ano. Me as a content creator, my journey, it's not instant, no? I worked hard for it. Because maybe because ang content ko diverse eh. Merong funny, merong controversial, merong ganito, may patama ng ganyan. That's my ano, no? That's my spectrum. That's my my bubble. So I'm okay with it, and I accepted the fact. But overall, it's all about creating a safe space, because like for example the Auntie Julie videos, it's meant to be progressive, because I want Filipino families to be more open, to be more accepting, no, in these kinds of situations. So we are dealing a lot of things kasi. So yon, but overall nga, no, just to conclude, uh social media, it's kind of healthy, because if you want to be happy, just go to a YouTube channel, or just go to a Facebook page. You'll be laughing on an instant. But after that, paano ka na ulit makakabalik sa reality? So that's the downside lang there.
Thanks so much, McCoy. Thanks. I didn't realize that you've been around since 2017. So yeah, and that you're a frustrated copywriter. So it's quite an interesting journey. Let me call on our two clinical psychologists. And guys, if you have questions, I have some questions coming in already, so we'll be able to tackle them. I just wanted to bring in our two psychologists, and to maybe just react a little bit, and maybe talk about, like McCoy had mentioned, about Filipinos wanting happy content and not want controversial content. And so can you maybe tie that in with, the Filipino psyche and the use of social media?
Okay. Hi everyone. So I'd like to just say that I'm a fan of McCoy. So I'm very happy to be in the same talk with him. So my name is Mara Yusinko. I'm a psychologist and counselor in Touch Community Services. So In Touch has been around for around 40 years. So we're one of the leading providers of mental health services. I'm also a lecturer in Ateneo. So, well, my research focus is not necessarily social media, but I am aware of some studies and statistics. So maybe I'll sort of like summarize some of that in a bit. But siguro before I go through that, I'll have Ian introduce himself first. Okay, so Ian, pasok.
Hi guys, I'm Ian Agustin, also a registered psychologist and a counselor and ambassador from In Touch. So yun nga, as Mara has said, we'll just take it together and first, siguro we'll go with the scientific first and the researches. So I'll give it off to Mara and then we can start the conversation from there.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't have much data, not as extensive as Steady presented and Andrea on Filipino social media use or what they feel about social media. So what I'll be telling you right now will tend to be more general. So I hope that's okay. But yeah, so siguro just summarizing some studies because the main question here is really, can we live with social media or without social media, or is it like oxygen to us, right? So that's the title of this talk. So the answer is complex. So I think as everyone has presented, there's no yes or no answer here. It really depends on individual circumstances also. So, you know, in the past few years, studies on social media, at least psychological studies on social media, tend to be all like doom and gloom, like, oh, social media is like being so toxic to the youth, or it causes depression, anxiety, and all of these like negative outcomes. But in fact, more recent studies show that the relationship between mental health and well-being is more nuanced and complex than a direct relationship that because I use social media, I will tend to develop certain symptoms of mental health disorders also. So there's a lot of contradictory evidences also. So I think Alex was referring to some of that. Now it's still unwritten. It's changing so fast that also as clinicians and all that, we also have to update our knowledge all the time. But yeah, so actually what we're finding out recently is that the relationship between well-being and social media is complex, like I just said. So it's rarely causal. And it really depends on what is in between the usage of social media and the effect. So what I mean is individual characteristics of the person, social circumstances like COVID, and the type and level of engagement that you have with the social media platforms will dictate its effects on your well-being. So social media as opposed to something that directly affects how you feel or certain symptoms of depression or anxiety is more of like a tool that exacerbates or mitigates these types of like effects depending again on how you use it. Okay, so maybe just to clarify this, I'll talk about 3 studies that can sort of like elucidate on what I'm saying. The relationships are not so direct, but there's certain like factors in the middle that might be mediating or sort of like moderating between these relationships. Okay, so there's a Kentucky study actually. So this Kentucky study that I'm about to talk about, I think it's called, wait lang ah. It's called the Social Media Party, Fear of Missing Out, Social Media Intensity, Connection, and Well-Being. And basically in this particular study, they tried to tackle the same question that this talk that we are having is trying to tackle, which is, can you live without social media? So they actually asked their participants to quit social media for a couple of days, so 14 to 28 days, okay? And then they made them write in diaries, talk about their subjective well-being also, so their levels of happiness, feeling good, and all of these things. So what they found out, interestingly, in the study is there's really very negligible effects in terms of social media use, whether or not it existed in the particular participant's life, and the effects on well-being and happiness. So yeah, there's not much effect. So I think basically what it's trying to say is there's like things in the middle there that might be sort of connecting that relationship. Okay, so maybe again, it really depends also on how the person uses social media, and that in itself would dictate whether or not the person feels worse or good or bad in terms of yung usage of social media. There's also another study here locally conducted by a colleague of ours, si Therese Ocampo, and she tried to study the effects of Facebook use in terms of depressive symptoms in high school teenagers in the Philippines. So what she found out is also there's really no connection. There's no direct connection between or relationship between how long or how immersed the teenagers are in Facebook or social media and the levels of depressive symptom. So what she found out is the thing that's sort of operating in the middle that dictates or connects those two variables or factors is the level of pre-existing envy of the person. So if I already as a person have feelings of envy or feelings of like, you know, maybe my life is not as good as other people, and then I see it on in social media, then that will exacerbate any sort of feelings of depression or any feelings of not being good enough that I already have. So it's not because they're in social media, it's because there's a pre-existing characteristic or circumstance of envy that makes them, that worsens or exacerbates certain symptoms of depression and anxiety amongst the teens. And siguro lastly, just to sort of highlight this, so this is an excerpt for, or parang a short parang insight from the American stress study. So this is very recent, and they actually found out na in terms of social media use, if the person is doing well in life already, like in vivo, like face-to-face life, then he or she will also tend to do well in Facebook. Doesn't really experience any negative affect in terms of Facebook or any other types of social media. But if the person is not doing so well in life, for example, a teen who's in school already experiencing bullying or experiencing, I don't know, like whatever academic issues and all that, then they also tend to not do well in social media. Okay, so it's not because they're exposed to social media that they experience these things. It's because in real life, they already have these parang feelings and circumstances that exposure to the social media worsens all of these like effects on them. Okay, so I guess maybe to sort of like give Ian some time also to talk. I think it's good to think of social media as more of tools and extension of spaces. Okay, so you know, spaces are basically where we sort of enact or enable certain human behaviors. And ganun din yung social media. It's not inherently bad or good because social media can be an enabling space. It also can be a disabling space. So for example, teens or adolescents who would want to learn more information on their sexual identity, they usually have positive outcomes if they seek it in social media because maybe in real life there's no enabling spaces for them to explore their sexuality, and social media is safer, diba? There are more people, more information, so it could be enabling. But not all enabling processes are good. So for example, with what we're hearing about the whole news with Trump and everything, technically they are enabled, but their enabling is not necessarily good for the greater society. So I guess that's where we have to also be careful. And I guess this is where the discussion of Alex when it comes to fake news, being more vigilant about these things, and the whole echo chamber phenomena, this is where we need to look into these things also. So there, I mean, siguro I'll stop with that, and then maybe later if there's questions on like what now, so what do we do, like any practical tips on managing your use, so maybe we'll talk about that later, but I'll give Ian some time and space also to talk.
Okay, so hi everyone. And I think that the way Mara ended it was perfect because social media really is a tool. Much like anything else we have, diba? Anything can be like a double-edged sword. There's positive and negative factors and effects of anything. Say the whole, like in the US, diba? There's always that issue with owning and owning guns, right, for self-defense. But then people are also saying that you shouldn't. Anyone can get a gun there and it's dangerous for everyone. So social media can kind of be sort of a gun pointing to your head at times if you use it irresponsibly. And in relating lang to what Makoy said earlier about yun nga, sana diba, the content is happy, and that would be great if all you see is happy content and it helps you, it gives you positive feelings, and it helps like serotonin, endorphins release in your head. But going back, say from a year and a month ago, when Taal happened, when COVID happened, and all of the earthquakes happened, tuloy-tuloy, all of the bad news was on our feeds. And you can't really control what you see, right? Maybe it's not the fault of any of the platform creators or the algorithm. It is what it is. And sometimes that's really something you just have to accept. And relating that to with what Mara said, it's really about responsible use and the level of maturity of the user. Again, it is a tool, and if you think about it this way, say yung mga fitness influencers, maybe you see on IG, you can see their posts and see that as a way to like inspire you to also be fit, to live healthy, right? But if you see their posts and because they're so fit and they're so good looking, and then in your mindset you compare that to how you look, that makes you feel worse. It's not really the fault of the post itself, right? It is beyond our control what we see. What we can control is how we react. And basically, yun nga, with what Andrea said, Ren, it's really a matter of using it in moderation. Um, and I want to keep it short. So there's just one study also that I want to talk about. This is where you see the contradictory results. There was a study naman in University of Pennsylvania. It was about, they asked 140 undergrads to limit their use of Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram to 10 minutes a day, so around 30 minutes each day. And then they were asked to answer a survey that measures anxiety, depressiveness, loneliness, and the usual FOMO or fear of missing out. After a while, after a 3-week period, they noticed that the results um, showed that there was an effect, and that people tended to feel less FOMO, to feel less anxious, to feel less depressive symptoms after that 3-week period of limiting it. So again, using social media in moderation, or at least maybe knowing or being mindful of when you might be overusing it or when you're already in that cycle, can really help. Siguro good personal example is I just to get a social media detox, I deactivated my Facebook 2 weeks ago, and I noticed the first 2 days that that I had it deactivated, my muscle memory and my fingers were just going straight to Facebook, and then it would go into an empty app because I had it deactivated for a while, and that's when I realized and I became more mindful of the fact that your body even adapts to it, and you really kind of learn na parang without even noticing it that you're back cycling through the feed, going into that rabbit hole of scrolling, seeing nice videos, seeing news, seeing memes, seeing all of that. And yeah, basically that's what it is. In short, it is just using it in moderation. To answer it strictly, can you live without social media? Technically yes, but that really limits the quality of life that you have. I mean, we use social media now for our news, for connecting with friends, connecting with family, for chatting, for everything. I mean, sure, you could go back to just emailing people and getting your news from websites, but again, that limits the quality of your life, and you're not making the most of the resources you have because social media is there and it presents us with a horde of information that we just have to end up sorting through ourselves and deciding on our own what we do with it. So yeah, basically that's what it is.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, Ian.
Ian covered it now.
Well, that was a great discussion. I think we can go to questions now. I just have one. Ian, you said something. You said social media model. Well, this is for everyone. How many social media apps is too much? Like, there's Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp is a social media platform as well. There's TikTok, there's YouTube and all that. I mean, there are always new platforms being developed. So how much is too much? Anyone have an opinion?
I don't think there are any sort of like parang baseline studies that would tell us like how much, I mean, data wise, how much is too much, but I think it really depends on the person. Like how much do you think you can handle? How much, if you notice that you're spending like dysfunctional amount of time scrolling through like 5 different apps, then that could be too much for you. But then if I have 5 apps, but then I notice that parang it only takes me a few minutes to go through them at the end of the day, then that might be still good enough, diba? Even if it's technically the same amount of apps for the both of us. So I think it really depends on what, again, Ian said, how you observe, you engage with these social media apps also, and the duration of time you spend with them. But maybe others can also have an opinion on this. Yeah.
I'll just hop onto what Mara said. The keyword there was dysfunctional. If you notice now, you're able to function even with like I don't know how many apps on your phone or social media apps, and you don't spend too much time in a day for it, then great, right? If you enjoy it, you just have to be very mindful of what's happening to you. If you're enjoying like going through your Snapchat and Instagram stories, FB, Twitter, whatever, then that's good on you, diba? It's really is a matter of whatever floats your boat. Every person is different. Every person is unique. There's no way you can judge that or you can even quantify that. But again, it goes down to the basic word of, are you still functioning even with that much? Is it overwhelming you or not? And that goes the same way for like siguro for Makoy, because he creates content in different platforms. And if at the end of the day it's not helping his mental health, diba, then that might be too much already. So that's kind of what you have to look for.
McCoy, how many platforms are you using? You have TikTok and Instagram, right? Or Facebook as well?
Let me check. I have five. So I have five apps. So ayan siya, social. O,
So you
diba?
post on all these apps regularly.
No. So actually, my one of my New Year's resolution this year is to limit my social media usage. That I will just check the app kapag meron akong i-upload to that point. So like for example, if I need to upload a content or a sponsored post, ganun lang. Yun, doon ko lang siya gagamitin. Number one, I'm cutting off on Twitter. So I'm not that active on Twitter na masyado. So kasi before talagang everyday I tweet eh. Oo. I'm more on Instagram right now. I'm fond of checking my IG stories, the IG stories from my of my friends. Mas gusto ko siya ngayon. Facebook, not too much. I'm more inclined of checking my Reddit now. So parang since nagbawas ako sa Twitter, I'm more checking, forums on Reddit. So mas ganun ang behavior ko right now. TikTok, I'm not hindi ako babad sa TikTok. I just use TikTok when I'm uploading content. But as in watching TikTok, because I know a few friends they can uh they can stay on TikTok for 2 straight hours just watching content like that. But me no, I just check TikTok kapag may upload.
With your followers, how much time does that take? Or you don't anymore? You just leave it to the content, you don't reply, or
Well, when it comes to uploading content kasi hindi na rin ako nagbabasa ng comments eh. Because most especially on Facebook, the market is diverse, 'di ba? Halo-halong tao sa Facebook. Unlike Instagram, it's kind of filtered, no? So medyo may siya, may kumbaga meron siyang quadrant kapag sa Instagram. On Facebook, talagang masa, lahat ng klase nandun. I just check the comments sa Instagram, but on Facebook not too much na. On TikTok hindi rin, but more on Reddit right now. So, I guess as a content creator, it's also important for me to kasi there are a lot of content. I have a lot of content creator friends also, and sometimes bilang content creator, you tend to compare your content, right? Does it seem authentic? Para mga ganyan. So, I limit then because I need to, detoxify a bit and take care of my mental health. As you may all know, I was diagnosed with dysthymia 4 years ago. So, part of my, sort of therapy, though hindi naman ako nag-therapy ngayon, pero parang sa kotse, right? Periodic service maintenance. Yon, medyo lilo and then pag okay na, and then tsaka ka mag-active ulit.
I have a question actually from one of our members who's also an influencer in her own right, Tessa Valdez. She was saying that her IG, some of you might know, some of you her followers, was recently hacked. They're recently on Instagram. So what has, Alex, I guess is for you, what has IG done to help protect or safeguard their accounts? Because she says it took her a month to retrieve her account back. And no thanks to Instagram Philippines, she says. Several friends had been hacked. I guess a link was sent through Instagram, and then you click it, and it was a phishing site. And the hacker even used her account to go to the help center, IG help center for copyright problems. And she was able to get it sorted through a friend of a friend through Facebook Philippines. So how does Instagram protect its followers from its users from hacking and getting their accounts back once they've been hacked?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple parts to that. So in terms of protecting accounts, I mean, we have some of the most sophisticated, talented technical teams in the world that are 100% devoted to cybersecurity. I think the challenge with this, I mean, if you ask anyone who's in cybersecurity, is there are always edge cases that will pass through. So you can try to protect and be as proactive as you possibly can, but sometimes things slip through the cracks. So what we've done on our side is a couple of things, and then I'll share shortly after what generally folks should do when they have their account hacked. So in terms of security, one of the first things that we always emphasize to anyone on Instagram, but I think especially if you're a high profile celebrity or influencer, is to set up something that we call two-factor authentication. And what that means is that if someone is going to be logging into your account, if they happen to have your password, for example, or they try to log in, Instagram will send you a one-time password, whether to your phone or to your email, to be able to confirm that that is indeed you making that request to change your password and to log in. So if you haven't done that, I incredibly highly recommend that you set that up, even if you're just a regular person. In terms of what you can do if you get hacked, we have a full-time team that looks into these issues. So there's a help center link where you can visit, report that you've been hacked, and then you have to send in I think a photo identification as well to verify that you are the owner of that account. As you can imagine, when you have a platform with 1 billion people on it, we don't have 2-hour turnaround time service for customer accounts, but something that we're improving and we try our best to work on.
Sorry, I wanted to ask about the two-factor thing. Is there, some people do post or controversial content law that's supposed to be controversial as well. Is this fake news or not that the government can request, for example, Instagram to give up the identity of an Instagram user who, for example, publishes political content that they may not be in agreement with?
Yeah,
because
I'm not an expert.
There's some, yeah.
Sorry,
No, I just heard that there was some resistance to doing the two-step authentication, because you would have to release your phone number, so because you would get a message, right, a text with a number.
So I would say maybe I'll just preface by saying I'm not sure what the existing regulations are specifically for the Philippines, because I haven't dug into that in some time. But I would say generally the philosophy that we have is that we apply with any meaningful lawful request from a given country. As you can imagine, when we operate in I think we're in more than 150 countries around the world, each country will have their own local nuances of how they approach things like freedom of speech online, which the Philippines is what's the right word, different in some ways compared to other countries. But I would say generally our philosophy has always been that we believe firmly in anonymity. We believe firmly in protecting users as much as possible. So it takes a lot for something theoretically like that to happen. So it's not like the politician down the street sends a message to Instagram and then we would give up like the phone number, for example, of an account. So we apply with any legal lawful requests, but we also have a full-time team that tries to push back as much as possible.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, let me go to some of the questions here. With the recent developments in social media and the negative impact it has had over the last few years, do the social media platforms, especially YouTube, Facebook, think that they should recalibrate their algorithms to minimize sending an individual down the rabbit hole? Why did YouTube not do that a couple of years back with a French coder at YouTube? This is very specific. At YouTube, it recognized the problem and the impact. In fact, he was eventually let go by YouTube and supposedly left the algorithm untouched. I guess it's for you again, Alex.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with that specific case with the French coder. So I left YouTube in 2015. So that one might have slipped under my radar. But I would say maybe if we take a little bit of a step back and talk about the algorithm holistically. The goal of an algorithm, and this is something that's not just, I think, on Facebook, but Instagram has an algorithm, Twitter has an algorithm, Pinterest has an algorithm as well, is that people's time is precious. So if you are logging into Instagram, for example, and you're going to spend 10 minutes there, the idea is that we want to make sure that that 10 minutes that you spend is the most valuable of your time. And we do that by incorporating thousands and thousands of signals that essentially get updated on a regular basis. And all of these signals can be things like, for example, your proximity, your relationship to the person who's posting, the type of content on Facebook. Some people prefer news articles, some people prefer videos, some people only want to see cute puppies, doesn't matter who it comes from. Like it can be that person I met 20 years ago on a train, but I want to see the cute puppies that come from that person. And so if you look at every single person's feed, it'll be completely different. So your feed will be different than my feed, than McCoy's feed, and everyone else's feed. I would say, broadly speaking, when it comes to the rabbit hole, I partially agree, but I think I would also push back to some extent, because what can be challenging is the way that you define the rabbit hole might be entirely different. I was making the joke earlier that I have a lot of titas who share, these like fake, news posts all the time. Like if you swish like buko juice and then, it cures Alzheimer's or something like that. But at the same time, like I do want to see my tita's content. And I don't know if it's necessarily the platform's responsibility to say that, for this individual post, we should restrict you from seeing that content if you've clearly expressed to us that you enjoy the content of this person, or you have a close personal relationship with that person. Generally, what we've tried to do is put as many safeguards as possible in place, but at the same time, respecting the user to be able to distinguish what type of content that they want to see on the platform. So especially for Facebook, there's a 3-dot icon at the top right of every single post, and you can actually give feedback to the algorithm as well. You can say, I don't like this content, I do like this content. You can say to certain people that you're connected with on Facebook, show this person first, unfollow this person. So we take a lot of those signals into account that people can manually provide that information to. So I would say the algorithm has a lot of work, but at the same time, generally we've seen that is the good outweighs some of the challenges when it comes to the algorithm.
I think a lot of us have seen that documentary in Netflix, The Social Dilemma, right? Yeah. And the contention there was that every platform wants to keep you online. Yeah. Whatever time you have, I mean, even more than the 10 minutes that you allotted every day, that ideally is to keep you captive. So like in terms of YouTube, in the example of YouTube, it's like putting more and more content that draws you in and keeps you, I guess, hooked.
Yeah. So it was kind of funny. I think this is like one of the challenges with working at a large tech company is when that film documentary came out, every single person in the world was texting me about it, asking if I had seen it. And generally, I tried not to watch it just because this is my daily job, and like I didn't want to take any of that home. And when I watch Netflix, I want to watch like Love Island or something kind of mindless. But I did eventually watch the documentary, and I would kind of push back on that as well. Is when you think about an algorithm, right, or even if you're trying to make a business or monetary case for a social platform, the way that we approach it is we talk about something that we call jobs to be done. And to your earlier question, how many social networks is too many? And the answer is it depends, because every single social network provides a different value to every individual person. So I get my news from Twitter. I interact with my friends and my family on Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. I used Pinterest for a recent home renovation as well. So every single app has a different job to be done. And when we think about how we monetize that job to be done, it's purely based on having users in the long term. And so if we were going to do something like, let's say, for example, suck you in so that you spend 3 hours on Instagram at the expense of feeling good about the platform or feeling good about yourself, that means that you're probably not likely to be a long-term Instagram user. That means that when something else comes along, whether it's a TikTok or something else, and the 60 minutes that you spend on social media is better spent on TikTok, then you'll leave, right? Instagram is a free service, Facebook's a free service, YouTube is a free service as well. So the pushback that I would give there is that for us, it's important that users in the long term feel like they're getting value from the platform. And it's not at all based on, every single day, how much time are you spending on the platform, because that's a superficial metric that could change instantly. Today, you could decide that you don't want to spend any time on Instagram, and then you delete the app and then you go. So, so that's maybe my initial reaction to that question.
I think related to that is the guy who was featured in Social Dilemma. Wasn't he part of that group now, Humane Tech Movement? I forget his name, but I think he's part of that organization or that movement. So an attendee asks, one of our attendees is saying, why is the burden of adjusting to the ill effects of social media always on the users? Shouldn't these tech companies be held accountable in order to make their algorithms less addictive?
I think, is that one for me as well, I guess? Okay. Sorry to the other panelists. I get tired of hearing myself speak as well, so not just you guys. I agree with the premise of the question. I don't think that the right approach should be, this is social media, and everyone who's using it, figure yourselves out. So figure out for yourself whether you enjoy the content or you don't like the content, or whether it's addicting or not addicting. I think that both have a role to play, but it's not just, it's the platform itself which has a role to play to make sure that you're safe online, that you have a positive experience when you're spending time on one of the platforms, not just for Facebook and Instagram, but I think all the platforms. The users have a responsibility as well to manage their own life and think about, if social media is addicted to you, like, and you're getting a negative experience, like, for sure you should not be spending that much time on social media, right? I think that that's like almost anything, whether that's alcohol or cigarettes or whatever your particular vice is. And then the other thing I would say as well is that governments also have a role to play here. In my introduction, one of the things that I was saying is that the story of social media is largely unwritten because it's such a young, new technology and a new trend in the world that in a lot of cases, the regulations haven't caught up. So when you see things in the news, for example, like, fake news or like free speech, there's no universal definition of like what is free speech on the platform, or there's no universal definition of how do you ensure people are safe online. For what you define as safe could be completely different for the user who's in Cambodia, for example, or in somewhere in Africa. So I think that all three have a place to play. I think that the platforms specifically have to be active in making sure that people are safe and their online well-being is carefully protected. So I would agree with some parts of the premise of that question.
Okay, now we'll give you a break, Alex.
Okay.
Let's turn to Teddy and to
Sorry again, everybody.
What is the best way? You guys are social media analysts, so you obviously have to be familiar with the different platforms and the ways that they're being used. So what is the best way to detox from social media when your job description requires you to monitor it almost every day?
Yeah, I can personally relate to this because as a social listening analyst, you have to monitor online conversations for 5 days a week at most, sometimes on weekends. But what I try to do is, because it gets tiring, admittedly, have all the constant doom scrolling and the negative news and etc. So what I do is on the weekends, I try my best to put away my phone, kind of hide it, or let my sister hide it, so that I don't have a way of accessing my phone. But at the end of the day, I still feel kind of like, oh, I need to check this because I think with how the other panelists mentioned it as well, it's become a reflex. But yeah, it's I guess it's about also with what they mentioned, it's about being more I guess mindful of how you use social media and maybe a bit of self-regulation when you use it. But yeah, My personal reco, maybe dedicate your weekends to just for you time, whatever you want to do that's not online related. But yeah.
Okay, well, it's actually very close to what Andrea already said, but I think a lot of it is really about protecting yourself in multiple aspects. It's about protecting your time outside of social media. It's also about protecting, I think, your level of investment in social media, your level of emotional investment in it. Um, sort of realizing that this is just an extension of actual reality and not reality in itself. So a lot of it is about, I think, yeah, safeguarding your perceptions of how much it should play into your life and still consciously snapping back to reality. So yeah, like what was said earlier, a lot of it is about mindfulness, and yeah, just being conscious about everything that you're exposed to as well.
Can I add?
Yes.
Yes. Um, Before I was working in an advertising agency as social media manager. So based on my experience, it's really hard, most especially for you, Teddy and Andrea. You're working in the ad industry and we need to be updated with the trends, diba? And well, just a personal tip, no, because I've been there also, no, wherein I manage several social media accounts, upload content on them. So as a content creator, it's also important for the followers, no, that you choose the content creator na healthy for you, right? Content that's healthy for you, feeding you good, something like that, spreading some good vibes. And of course, phones naman, our smartphones, there are apps that can, help in terms of monitoring your social media usage or your app usage. So just set a reminder and then set a timer wherein, okay, you're just allowed to use Instagram for 2 hours per day, something like that. So that should also help.
Yeah.
Um, well,
Actually, can I make a friendly product plug?
mm-mm.
And this is where I'm gonna
Yes.
steal out of Teddy's play, but we actually released this feature fairly recently within Instagram, where you can see the time that you're spending every single day, and then see historically how that's changed. And then you also can set a timer and a limit, so that if you only want to spend 30 minutes or an hour, then you can set that up within the app.
Yeah, that's
Just a
right. And
friendly plug.
yes, that's right. Actually, and also you need to recalibrate your social media apps. Like for example, choose the best ones for you. Which is what's healthier, Facebook or Instagram? So you need to reassess. So in my case, I found that Instagram is healthier for me rather than Twitter, staying on Twitter for 2 hours. So yon, you need to do that as well, no? You need to help yourself and give yourself more space or me time to detoxify as well. Because I mean, social media, it keeps us informed, 'di ba? It keeps us entertained, but at the same time, if you abuse the use of the platforms, it could lead to, more mental health problems.
Think people, because of the pandemic in the beginning, right? People were spending a lot of time online. And then I think if you're on an iPhone, at least at the end of the week or Sundays, they would say your usage went up by like 20% or something, which is like really shocking. But you know, I we were all glued to our gadgets, right? Um, Hang on, we have a bunch of, well, can we just take maybe a few more minutes to go through some of the other questions here? I hope you guys have time. Um, Maybe for Ian and Mara, what can we do to protect the kids who aren't as capable of self-regulating as adults?
Ano ba, Ian, is it you or me?
So I think in Facebook and Instagram, you do have parental controls, right? So that's one thing. Of course, actually, in the terms of use, I believe my age limit on which what age should have, like, is able to have an account, but because I guess in the Philippines, hindi naman siya, it doesn't get followed typically. It's really just a matter of it becomes a matter of parenting also, a good parenting, and having open communication with your kids. Na if you do have that positive relationship with them, and you are open with them, and they feel comfortable enough to be open with you, then it's not as much an issue with things like that. Or same thing with having rules. Like if they do get the privilege of having a phone, and take note, it is a privilege for a child or a teen, or depending on the age, to have a phone, because that's a gadget that comes from their parent. Then you can set the rules there and then. It's really a matter of prevention rather than trying to put a band-aid on it. And it at the end of the day, it really boils down to just a good relation and positive relationship with your kids or your wards.
Yeah, I think I'd like to sort of follow that lang what Ian said also. So, well, first and foremost, it depends on the developmental age also. So, kids is a wide range of of developmental stages. So, I guess if we're talking about below the adolescent years, there might be more parental controls and stricter and more, structures in terms of how much they could use it only after class for 2 hours, stuff like that. And these are like sites that you can look into. But then as they get to that adolescent age, we have to admit, kahit na nakalagay sa Facebook, it's 18 years old. All of us here probably were there before we were 18, right? So I was in Multiply way before that. So I guess, it's when you're an adolescent, it's the time for exploration. It's the time for identity exploration, also information, and it's also a time for socialization. So yes, they would probably want to be in the social media sphere because that's where a lot of people are, that's where their friends are, that's where they can learn more about themselves. So at that time you might need to sort of loosen up in terms of yung social interactions. But this is where Ian's answer comes in. So if you've fostered that stability of a safe, so keyword on safe, open relationship with your kids, it's easier. They will tell you what they're doing. They will tell you who they're talking to. They'll tell you what they're watching. They'll tell you about all of these things. So you need to, there's less worries in terms of, are people taking advantage of them? Are they looking into sites they're not supposed to see? And, typically with our clients, this is also the same. If the kids feel safe, they tell their parents, and the parents then can put their input into that conversation. But if you haven't fostered that open relationship, so there's a lot of, you're not flexible, they feel frustrated, they feel like they're not listened to, heard, then they will hide. And it will be harder for the parent to control because you can confiscate, then I'll just get a new phone or I'll just do this and that. Kids will find ways, diba, if they really need it and want it. So I guess when it comes to that parang adolescent stage, it's less about this and that. These are the rules. You should do this, you should do that. But more on really like talking to them and getting them to open up to you without you prompting them, or maybe you asking also, how are you, in a safe way. What have you been looking into? Who's that McCoy Dubs person? What do they post, right? So stuff like that also. Yeah.
Okay, there's an interesting question here for everyone. Knowing social media seems to be a powerful platform for getting that spotlight or attention of the public. In your personal opinion, what could it be used for in terms of using it for more? Nowadays, their advertisements, the marketing side of things are being used by social media. So they're taking advantage of the pandemic's physical distancing setup, and I guess ramping up their efforts in social media to reach customers. But what do you personally feel we could do more of with social media? Interesting question. Anyone? Nothing?
Yes. Okay. To get the ball rolling, I think it's a very effective tool. From what I've been seeing lately, it's a very effective tool for relief efforts, and I feel like there's a lot more of that we could be doing. I personally was volunteering at a couple of animal welfare organizations in the past, and social media has been a major avenue for getting new volunteers, for raising funds, and for also making people more, aware of the causes. So there's already a lot of it being done, but I think there's still a lot of room to make that grow more across different platforms. I see it primarily on Instagram and Facebook, but I think that even on other platforms like LinkedIn, for example, or even through the chat platforms, the messaging platforms, there's more room for relief efforts.
Yeah, I think they've been used quite successfully. Ian, you had mentioned about the Taal volcano eruption early last year, and I think the use of social media was really effective in mobilizing aid for these communities, right? And also not just Taal, but recently the typhoons, the back-to-back typhoons that we had, and the communities that were hit. So, Alex, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think that those are really good points. I completely agree. I think one of the things that we saw was that, especially during the pandemic, people were forced to come online in ways that maybe they hadn't necessarily anticipated before, and that includes everyone across the board. So for people that were able to connect with each other when they were physically distanced, I think was really important during the pandemic. We saw a lot of communities being able to rally together, and one of the things that I was chatting about with one of my friends fairly recently was, imagine if we were going through this pre-social media or pre technology with mobile messaging, where understanding the updates on vaccines, the rules and regulations of the public, when you can go out, when you can't go out, being able to source goods as well. I just saw so much of that happening in the Philippines that I think it was really nice how social media and also messaging apps were able to help in that way.
Sorry, let me move on to the next question. Let's just go through a couple more. Okay, this from someone working in digital advertising. I see how intrusive some social media platforms can be. What are some of the ways common users can better protect their identities on social media? So I guess it's something that affects us all, really. I guess that's for you again, Alex.
Yeah, I guess I guess I'm not sure if I would entirely agree with the premise of social media being intrusive, but I think as kind of a side story, I have heard of a lot of my friends asking me if Facebook is listening or Instagram is listening and your mic is secretly activated. And so just to stop any fake news, we definitely don't listen. There's no way of activating your mic without your permission, and there's no way of us kind of filtering through those conversations to deliver you ads. I think what ends up happening in a lot of cases is that people are fairly predictable with their consumer behavior. It's the way that I sort of talk about it is that it's a little bit like a horoscope, right? If I tell you every single day that you're going to find the love of your life and fall head over heels, every day that it doesn't happen, you're not thinking, oh my god, my horoscope was right today. It's only that one day that it happens that you're like, oh my gosh, of course my horoscope was completely right. And it's sort of that same thing with ads as well, right? Where for all of the ads you see that are not properly targeted and are not relevant to you, you don't necessarily notice them. But it just happens to be the case where you happen to be talking about going to McDonald's later or going to a restaurant or traveling, and then you see an ad for that, again, entirely by chance, but you'll happen to remember that type of content. So so that's just a little bit more background in because I'm guessing whoever asked the question presumes that there's something really intrusive about like the ads delivery, but I would just say that it's actually pretty basic. If I'm an advertiser, I go online, I'll say, I want to show this ad to someone who Facebook believes is at a certain age, living in a certain part of the Philippines, interested in certain things, but we don't know any of these things for sure. We just sort of infer that you're interested in basketball or coffee or whatever it is.
Because I used to be on, when I was on Facebook, I haven't been on Facebook and I, deleted my account like years ago.
Oh
But
no.
sorry, I have an
Okay, no,
Instagram.
I'm just kidding. It's
But
okay.
I used to write a column on, regular column on sex and politics or sexual politics or whatever. And I would post them on my Facebook page, right? And the ads that would come in because of the subject matter were like, okay, wait a minute, very kind of like, sexual aids or, erectile dysfunction stuff and all that. So, I think, like you said, it's based on what you post, right? It's not necessarily listening to a conversation or something.
Yeah. I would say maybe two things on top of that. The first one is that we have a pretty comprehensive list of the types of categories that we would deem as sensitive, for example, which greatly restricts the distribution and privileges that an advertiser will be able to get if they're advertising in a sensitive category, let's say like alcohol or sexual wellness or whatever it is. The second thing that I would say is that I think that we've, as a platform, done a pretty good job of providing transparency for the ad delivery. So if you go on Facebook, I know you can't do that because you deleted yours, but if you do go back on Facebook, there's an option for every single ad that you see if you hit the settings on the top right that says, why am I seeing this ad? And if you select that option, we'll actually give you the full breakdown of precisely why you've seen that ad. It'll tell you whether it's because of your interest or your targeting or your location. And then you also have that option to say, hide all ads from this advertiser in the future. So again, it's sort of like what we were talking about with the algorithm, where there's some sort of automated systems which are doing things like showing you posts or ads, but then we're also trying to provide as many feedback mechanisms as possible so that you can provide that feedback and then shape the ads content that you want to see. If you want us to not give you any targeted ads whatsoever, we also have a new product that we call Clear History, where you can clear every single thing that we know about you, erase your entire sort of data set or portfolio that we think about you, and you'll just start to see ads for random things. So like if you're not interested in basketball, maybe we'll just start showing you basketball ads, or jobs in India or something like that that's not tailored to you at all. But you do have that control if you want to take that step.
So are you saying you're constantly refining the control features, I would say, of your app or of your platform?
Yeah, totally.
To be able to be more responsive to the user.
Yeah, exactly. Because essentially, right, if you're an advertiser, what you ideally want to do is maximize the outcomes that you're paying for, right? So you don't actually want your ad to be shown to someone who's not in your target demographic. So if I'm getting like real estate in India ads and I have no chance of ever going to India and buying real estate there, then that's essentially money that advertiser is wasted. So it's actually in everyone's best interest, both as a platform like us, because we want to make sure that if you're an advertiser on the platform, this is the best place for you to spend your marketing dollars. And then at the same time, as a user, because we're showing you ads that are relevant to you. So I get tons of coffee and basketball ads and travel ads all the time, but those are things that I'm interested in. And I'm happy to see that, considering that I don't pay for any of these platforms. So to use these platforms for free, you have to have ads that support the model. So same with YouTube and Google, all the Google services that you might be using.
What about there was this recent thing about, well, you're part of the whole Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram group, right? There was that thing about WhatsApp, the new terms and conditions.
Yeah.
You agreed to them and something else would happen. So there was this mass, defection to Signal or Telegram. And I would be getting messages saying, I'm no longer going to use my WhatsApp account. Please contact me on Signal or Telegram. So what was that all about?
Yeah, this one's one of the, I think, the great ironies of life, that there was fake news on our platform about ourselves. And so the terms of service, I think, were actually not really, at least in our head, considered to be a big deal. All that we were saying was some businesses are starting to establish a presence on WhatsApp. And so we've got centralized tools where if you're a business, you can message people on Facebook Messenger, on Instagram Direct, and then WhatsApp as well. And so the terms of service were just essentially saying that a business could potentially use that platform and then message you on WhatsApp or Instagram or on Facebook. It was never about connecting any identities or saying that, we're going to start showing you targeted ads based on your WhatsApp behavior. All of your calls are fully encrypted. That means that no one, not us, not the government, not anyone, is able to see any of the content of your messages. So it was something that I think we rolled out pretty poorly without effectively communicating to users about what the value proposition was. I think, to be fair, the team probably thought it was like a non-important update, and then it just sort of blew up as this thing, that was proliferating on all the social networks, as if it was a massive change when it actually wasn't.
Okay, I think we have time for to take one more question. I have a question here that came in by text. I think this is from McCoy. How do you deal with haters and trolls? Or you don't engage anymore, so you don't mind how they affected you in the beginning?
Yes, they really affected me way back when I was still starting McCoy Dubs in 2017. No, well, trolls. Well, there are so many trolls right now on social media. No, there are paid. They are they're like an army, so that attacks your comment section or attacks your private message. But for me, I've learned as time goes by, just don't message the trolls. Don't answer their comments. Don't reply to them. Just don't deal with them because uh what's important to me, as long as hindi ko naman sila nami-meet in person, I'm still alive. Because even if they send death threats over, direct message, what's important to me, as long as lumabas naman ako ng bahay at buhay pa ako, wala akong problema. But medyo ano siya, they affected me eh. Parang may time talaga na nag-social media break ako for 2 weeks because grabe talaga yung atake ng mga trolls. And they only attack when you post something controversial or something political. Okay? But kung funny naman, okay lang, 'di ba? They comment funny stuff also. But just don't deal with them. That's why there is a saying that says starve the trolls, 'di ba? Starve them because they are paid. Some they are not paid but they are meant lang talaga to make your day bad. So me, that's why I don't read comments at all on Facebook or sometimes on TikTok because meron talaga isa like lahat ng comments funny, and then when you scroll down pa a bit more, ay meron talagang sisira ng araw mo. So just starve them.
Can I make one last friendly plug for a product? Because whenever McCoy speaks, there's always a product that I want to share with folks.
Yes.
I was mentioning earlier that on the Instagram side, we want to be the best platform for online well-being, and especially protecting creators, I think is incredibly important. So we've got a new product that we call Restrict. And the way that this works, I think, is actually kind of clever because exactly as McCoy mentioned, is sometimes when it comes to these trolls or these online harassers, it's the acknowledgement that they want, right? But we've got this tool called Restrict, where if you restrict the user, what happens is they don't see anything on their side. So they don't see if they're blocked or restricted or whatever. They can still seem like they're posting on your content, but no one else can see their post except for themselves. So you won't be able to see it, other users won't be able to see it as well. And so it's sort of a way to not give the troll or the harasser the satisfaction of being blocked and knowing that they're blocked. And at the same time, they'll just keep posting and posting, but then no one else will be able to see their content except for themselves. So that's Restrict. It's on Instagram. It's fully available in the Philippines right now.
So what are the telltale signs of a bot, though, or a troll? So not all trolls are bots, right? Or they can be.
I guess it depends on how you're defining. I mean, there's a lot of people who are generally defined as trolls because they just harass people online, and those are very much real people that are just horrible people, and they have nothing better to do with their lives. And then you also have another segment of what we call inauthentic activity. And these are going to be things that we've seen a lot in the Philippines, to be perfectly frank, where it's one centralized person or resource that is able to direct a large amount of what seem like real accounts to be able to harass a person or an organization. So we've taken down quite a few, not to make it political, but we've taken down quite a few that were particularly associated with Duterte. But I think that's a different segment because those are actually not real people.
To add also, it's very easy to spot, trolls. Like for example, on Twitter, you'll see the join date. If it's fairly recent, like for example, today's February, and then the account was made 2 months ago or 3 months ago, well, certainly he's a troll, no? And when his tweets are just the same, using ad hominem attacks to other people as well, that's a troll. On Instagram, it's easy to spot also. Accounts that has no profile photos and parang numbers lang. User number 1000, and then that's why on Instagram I also like the feature of Instagram, no, wherein you have the option actually to set the chats to primary and general. And then on Facebook, I guess there's also an option there wherein you have the power na pwede mo siyang na hindi ka makakatanggap ng messages on Instagram because it can be connected right there.
What about the ones who catfish? You get so many requests, follow requests from men who always look like they're either doctors or, army men or something. And it's like, okay, and the name they use doesn't match with the username, you know? So I would imagine that these people wouldn't be around, these kinds of accounts, if there weren't people looking for, love or connection or something. Would you have something to say about that, Ian and Mara? And then they turn out to be people who aren't real, right? Or somebody in Ghana, or sorry, I'm not trying to put on anyone in Ghana, but someone say in Ghana or Angola, will try to extort money at some point, right? Trying to reel you in, and make you, I suppose, fall in love with them or something, and then later on ask for money to visit. Or I've read accounts of things like this happening.
So actually, from the nature of the question, it really actually is more, I think, an issue of just the responsibility of your use. Again, I paano ba? Professionally speaking, what we espouse is we really can't control what other people do. So what we can control is how we react, is what we do per se. So it boils down into how careful you are with your use, and of course, syempre, with the security that the platform provides already. And I'm sure Instagram and Facebook, they really provide a lot. And you can tell naman like with what Makoy said, yung mga fake accounts or mga accounts that don't seem real, it's easy to report them as spam. It's easy to see naman which is which. And at the end of the day, it really what matters is how responsible you are for yourself and for how you're using the platform.
But I think it's getting more and more refined, because in the beginning it wasn't so easy to spot, right? Or especially, like, I remember I got like a follow request from someone whose picture looked like Gavin Newsom, right? The current governor of, who's pretty, good looking and everything. I'm like, ooh, okay. And then I did a Google. I didn't know who Gavin Newsom was at that time, and he was apparently lieutenant governor. But I did a Google image search, right? That I realized, okay, this is not the governor who wants her, to follow me. But, some people don't even reach for those tools and just, are gullible enough to believe that this might be the person, they present themselves to be. I guess it's all about authenticity. Like even you, McCoy, right? You're trying to be, what you want to present is your authentic self, right? So we expect the same thing from other people trying to follow us or trying to engage with us.
Yes.
Social media.
Yes, that's right. Because followers or people will feel it if you're authentic in your content. If napipilitan ka lang, mafe-feel din naman nila yun eh. That's why my personality, I'm extrovert, no? But when kumbaga on social media, I'm makulit. I'm jolly, I'm fun, ganyan. In person, ako rin, ganun din naman ako. Hindi naman ako yung two-sided, no? But, of course, well, social media kasi it's very diverse nga, 'di ba? And whatever you say, sometimes pwedeng against you ang mangyari, pwedeng mabaliktad 'di ba? It can be editable. So But on mainstream, you need to be finesse, 'di ba? You need to be formal, ganyan, because TV is different. So social media, I am more creative. I have this kind of, uh I have more freedom in creating my content. So, but as a content creator, and to our listeners out there, it's very important that you follow the content creator who's very authentic. Yung hindi mo napipilitan lang, no? So it's very important pa rin na nakikita, kasi content creators, we share our life to you, eh, 'di ba? We give you a glimpse of our lives. So kaya when the content creator is relatable, dun siya talaga fina-follow, dun siya nagugustuhan ng mga tao.
Okay, I think we have to wrap up. Thank you so much for your time today and all your insights. And thank you for all our Manila House members and guests who joined us today. Remember, the club's open, and please come anytime. And if you can't come, then order takeaway from us. And join us next week on February 23rd at 5 p.m. Our talk is in partnership with CMI, and we're going to be talking about the different COVID vaccines available or that are coming. Before we close, I'd like to ask each one of our panelists maybe just a few words just to round up, social media, yay or nay, or whatever you might want to say, or just to round off the discussion. Do you want to start, Andrea?
Hi, yeah. I think with everything that's been said, I think it's already proven that there are
We can.
good things, and then there are, sorry, naririnig ba ako? Or is it okay? Yeah, thanks. But yeah, there are good things and there are bad things with social media. And right now, as it is, a lot of the things that need to be done is on the user's part. And so for us, I guess we just really have to pay more attention uh, to what we do, what we see, what we post in social media. And well, I think just to add more of a as a social listening analyst, there is more to social media than just looking at people's posts about certain brands or issues and topics, because there's a lot of information that can be called insights, that can be called um, about their opinions on different institutions. So yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. Sorry, got lost there for a bit. Sorry, my train of thought. But yeah, use social media more responsibly, I guess.
Betty, did you want to say something? Do you want to add to that?
Sure. Yeah, I think from everything that's been said today, it's pretty clear that it's really all about striking a balance. Um, Technically, you can live without it, pero sayang naman if you don't, because there's so much good to it also. I think also one good thing that can be highlighted about it is to really be realistic about the power of it, and being clear about the limitations of it as well. One thing that we frequently tell a lot of the brands that we work with is that not everything can be solved on the social space. It can solve a lot, but it really can't solve everything. So yun, it's really about striking that balance of what can be done there, but what can also be done outside it. So there. Thank you.
Thanks. Ian?
Well, on my end, yeah. I guess I found this really nice quote because I remember actually, and I saw it on Instagram. So thanks to Alex and Instagram for that. But there was a quote from a book by this Navy SEAL guy, pseudonym siya. His name was Mark Owen. Is to stay in your 3-foot world. And the story goes kasi he was rock climbing and he didn't know what to do. He's afraid of heights, Navy SEAL training, rock climbing siya. Didn't know what to do. The instructor comes up to him and says, parang, hey man, just stay in your 3-foot world. I'm here, but I'm not going to help you. If you look far down and you see how high we're up, that's not going to help you either. If you look anywhere else, that's not going to help. You just have to stay in your 3-foot world, which is stay within your reach. So yun nga, we have social media that's within our reach, but using it in moderation helps, and also just staying within where we are and being mindful of what we do, and being mindful of where keeping ourselves healthy and keeping ourselves mentally well. And I guess to segue na lang a little bit about it, because social responsibility. If you do need mental health, and your mental wellness and your mental health isn't really great at the moment, you can just look for In Touch Community Services. It's on social media, or the website of In Touch. It's in-touch.com, and you'll find us there. And professional help is always there. I know there's still some stigma against it, but the woke generation is also there. Social media is in fact helping that, and we're here for you. So yeah, Mara.
Well, what can I say that hasn't been said? But yeah, I guess I echo what everyone has just said and as their send off. But yun, siguro for me, maybe I'd like to end with responsibility na in terms of social media use, double yung onus. Sabi nga nung one of the people who ask the question. So there's the onus on us as individuals to take care and be mindful also. Try to put boundaries that are safe and healthy for us in terms of our social media use. But then also, because it is a space, and it's a space that's, alam mo yun, parang it's also, there are people involved in the creation of the space, people with power, policy level. So the onus is also, I guess, on that. Na as the usage progresses and changes over time, sana then the policies become more, I guess, enabling for us also users. So it's two-way. So we can't ignore one over the other lang. Yun lang. Bye-bye.
McCoy, gonna say something?
Yes naman, oo. Well, social media, it's a diverse space, but let's create safe space on social media. So choose the best ones, no, yung mga content na gusto niyo panoorin, ganyan. Most especially, there are a lot of people. I just wanna stress this out, no, because there are a lot of people diagnosed with anxiety and depression the past few months because of the pandemic, and social media plays a major role. So you as a user, you have the responsibility, you have the power to limit social media usage or excess it. But of course, ikaw yan, you need to control, di ba? You have the hands to control it. So use social media wisely, and let's be more inclusive on social media. We need safe space there.
And the person creating the safe spaces, Alex, the platforms, I guess.
Thanks again for inviting me to chat, and sorry that I dominated the airwaves a little bit too much today. I think when it comes to your original question, it's sort of what I was saying earlier, which is that the story of social media is young and it's largely unwritten. And so I think that this is a great conversation to have. I learned a lot from the other panelists as well, and also from the questions that if we want to make sure that at the end of the day, it is a good story that outweighs some of the challenges that we're seeing, that it's up to everyone, not just the platform, but all the users like you guys, businesses to brands, to governments, regulators, to make sure that the story is written in a way that talks about how it contributed to the greater good of society. So that's I think what I would end with there.
On that note, thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, and we hope to see you back soon. Appreciate it. And this up on YouTube in a day or so. Is being recorded. Okay. So thanks so much, and see you again.